Are your digital files safe? Not if they're on a computer connected to the internet, which is why I have this computer that is a safe, but also safe because it will never ever be again connected to the internet. So why exactly would anyone want a computer that doesn't access the internet? I mean, when was the last time any of us here watching this YouTube video didn't use the internet in the last 24 hours if we were on a computer? Well, if you have a bunch of passwords that you want to securely store offline, or if you have a bunch of scanned legal documents that you can't afford to leak out, or if you have some memes that are just too dank or they would break the internet, you need somewhere to safely and securely store those digitally. And while you could use something like this encrypted flash drive up here that features hardware encryption, as well as software encryption of your choice, as you could with any flash drive, that flash drive could still be read and copied if it was put into a computer connected to the internet. So what this computer allows you to do, and any computer, you just never connect to the internet, frankly, for that matter, I can view, edit, and save changes to any of these things that I need to securely store. Just think of it like a vault or a safe, hence the design, but for digital documents. And the best part is, unlike some premium fireproof safes out there, this cost me less than $80. The processor is an Intel Atom D2550, which I got baked into the motherboard with 4 gigs of DDR3 off eBay for $35. That's a pretty good deal. The other $45 were the world's cheapest power supply I could find, a 60 gigabyte SSD, it was whatever was the cheapest on Amazon at the time, and then $10 for this power button, and about $7 or $8 worth of 3D printing material. Ideally, if you were going to do something like this, you would probably want a modular power supply, but it's a bit of a mess because I have all these extra cables. But as you can see, I have the motherboard down here on bottom. It's passively cooled because it's just an 11 watt processor, so I'm relying on the always on fan of this power supply to suck the heat off the motherboard and out the back. So with a machine like this, the only potential vulnerability would be if someone had physical access to the machine. And generally, if someone has complete physical access to the machine, there's really not much you can do to really safeguard it beyond that point. Now, you could of course do full disk encryption, you could do an administrator password in the BIOS settings, but what I prefer to do is have my encrypted hardware flash drive with all of its files encrypted in a certain way using audio, but I won't necessarily divulge how I've done that. And then the only program that I've written that can read those files is on this machine. So it's a bit of a two-factor authentication, if you will. So I've talked about how other people could use a machine like this, but I'll talk about what I'm using it for, because hopefully you guys don't know where I live and you don't know where I keep this machine. But what I'm using it for is all the legal documents that I have for this YouTube business, as well as my other stuff that I do on the side. This has all my login credentials, or at least the reader software for those. Again, it's on my two-factor authentication flash drive, which I keep somewhere else. Not going to tell you where that is. Now, I did have to download 200 plus updates to this. I did all my software updates for Windows 7 because it's just important to have that extra security. I did all that before I put anything sensitive on it, and it will never touch the internet again. So even if there was some Windows update that included malware that's going to keystroke log and send everything to some hacker on the internet, it doesn't matter if that software is already there at this point, because it will never again connect to the internet to upload it. Now, the only reason I had to download 200 updates is because I really love Windows 7. It lets me do some cool UI tricks with Window Blind 7. So the whole user interface is bank vaulty, which I think is pretty cool. And the installer DVD I have for Windows 7, I think I got it back in 2009, 2010. So there's a lot of updates that have come out since then, which is why it took 3 days to download and install updates. But if you want to use Linux or anything else, you can go ahead and do that too. Speaking of other things that you can pick and choose from, here's a bunch of other videos I have on the channel, and you can pick and choose from those if you're looking for something else to watch. And if none of those options seem good enough to you, besides perusing the channel itself, I've got over 200 uploads, you could go ahead and get subscribed, and then when I have more security stuff coming out in future, you'll be sure to hear about it then.